Hello, 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 all of ye beautiful people from around the world. I'm, of course, Josh. This is a very special edition of Fan Chats Live. I am not alone, as I am joined with the man, the myth, the legend, Jason Ward. Jason, how are you, my friend?
Hey guys. Great. How are you guys?
Doing well, doing well. We're also joined with executive producer Al Schuler. Al is going to be manning the chat for us this evening. So as you guys come on in and you're dropping in those chats, dropping in those super chats, Al is going to be the guy that is checking all of that out. And the way this is going to work, if you've never been to a Fan Chat Live before, we're going to go for a little bit. I'm going to ask Jason some questions. We are going to get into some spoiler talk about some of these juicy leaks. And then we'll get into Q&A. So if you have questions, feel free to drop them into the chat. Of course, we will answer every single super chat that comes in, and Al Schuler will be manning all of that, and that will be towards the end of the show. So, Jason, first question, man. Just because this is super relevant, and this is something that my audience probably cares quite a bit about, is the fact that Kevin Feige, big news drop today, that Kevin Feige is going to be the chief creative officer at Marvel Studios, as well as president of Marvel Studios. And so what I saw online, I'm sure you saw it a lot too, was, this probably debunks or means that he will not be moving in and taking over Star Wars or something like that. And I just want to know, I don't know if you have any info on that, but can you clarify the Kevin Feige things that you've heard? And do you think that this move with him going over to Marvel means he won't be doing Star Wars? What do you think about that?
No, I think he's going to be doing Star Wars because they seem pretty thirsty for that.
Yeah.
Like they really want that, not running it, but doing that Star Wars episode he's supposed to do.
Yeah.
Now, back when, over the summer when those talks were going down, you kept hearing two things, at least on my end, and it was pretty much what I think Variety or the Hollywood Reporter reported. And that was that people thought he was going to essentially run Marvel and Star Wars, but he wasn't going to do every single thing. There was going to be like officers under him, that officer of live action, whatever. And when I say officer, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just using the word that you used a minute ago. But that, so there was a school of thought who thought that, and then the others was just like, no, he's just a huge Star Wars fan and he wants to make a Star Wars movie and he's going to do it or is going to produce it.
Right.
And so I kind of think that is going to be the extent of it. But I wouldn't be surprised if the fact that he's making a Star Wars film, which means he's going to be at Lucasfilm or working with Lucasfilm pretty intimately during that time, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the kind of Marvel methods and stuff like that ends up seeping into that company.
Yeah, I mean, so my takeaway on it, and obviously, like I don't know or whatever, but like I had heard, and maybe this was incorrectly reported, but like so on Reddit, after you do a lot of your leak stuff, right, it gets posted on Reddit, right, and so some of the people had posted that you had said that you had heard he was actually going to be sort of taking over in a larger capacity or maybe replacing Kathy Kennedy in some sense. Were you misquoted on that? Or like, is that something you heard but you can't verify?
No, that was out of context because my question to the people who said that to me was, well, if she's leaving and he's taking over, like, what about Indy?
Sure.
What about that? And so the common response was, oh yeah, like 2021 is when that would probably be happening.
Sure.
And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's logistically, it makes sense. And Kathleen Kennedy won't be there forever. I mean, she's already been there for about almost a decade now.
Sure.
We're getting close to it. So someday that will be true. But this wasn't like the kind of like standard like YouTube kind of like Kathleen Kennedy stepping down in disgrace kind of thing. It was like, no, eventually she's going to move on and just finish her movies.
Yeah.
And produce movies for Lucasfilm most likely. And both sides of that, we don't know what's going to happen. Internal kind of discourse, both said that. Like, she's not going to be there forever. Somebody will take over. It will happen, but it's not going to happen how Reddit reported it or how Reddit caught on to it. And that kind of sucked because on the podcast, I was so clear.
Sure. Yeah.
At least I thought so.
Yeah.
I thought so anyways.
Yeah, no, I get you. Yeah, so I guess we'll kind of leave it there. I'll just say this, and I'm going to report more on the Feige Marvel news tomorrow. That's what I'm doing my main show on. But I would just say that I still think he's completely doing the Star Wars movie. And this guy doesn't, even though he does a lot and his workload is insane, his personal bandwidth must be out of control. But like, he's not like making frame by frame each one of these movies. Do you know what I mean? So it's not outside of the realm of possibility, at least in my personal opinion, that he is chief creative officer, which really just means he gets things completely his way now. And he can still go over there and co-produce that movie with Kathy. And, who knows where it goes from there. I actually, just because I stan Kevin Feige so hard, I would obviously really like for him to take over Lucasfilm. But I'm not necessarily one of those Kathy Kennedy haters either. But let's move on to a couple other things. So here's something I wanted to get into, man. I was just wondering if you could rattle off just a few, because I know you got them ready. I was wondering if you could just rattle off a few of the scoops you have gotten over the years covering Star Wars. Just a few that come to mind, because there are people out there, and we're going to get into this in a minute too, but there are people out there that somehow have this idea that like you know nothing, right? And I'm like, okay. So I could say it, but why don't you just list off a few of the scoops, if you're comfortable with that you've gotten correct in the past? Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, everything from the start of this was like John Boyega as a stormtrooper, Han Solo dies, Kylo Ren is called the Jedi Killer, and he's Han Solo's son, and he kills him. Rogue One is about the daughter of the dude who made the Death Star, and they want to kill him.
I remember when
that was one scoop.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, and then just lots of like mini things too, like these birds in Episode 8 are called porgs, and names, and Cassian and Jin. I got Rogue One on the brain because of that Rogue One scoop today.
Yeah,
or that big story that came out. But yeah, so over the years, I mean, I've had like a couple hundred like really solid scoops, and I know people who work on the film, in the films, various capacities and different places. So I hear a lot of things, and I think I have a pretty good accuracy level. At the same time, like, my stories usually they develop.
Sure.
Like, there's going to be this red stormtrooper. There are these red stormtroopers. Oh, they're called Sith troopers. But then my sources who were working on the movie were like, they're not called Sith troopers, dude.
Right.
They're not. And I'm like, really? But they weren't called that to the people who were working on it at Pinewood. And then lo and behold, they're called Sith troopers. So it's like, sometimes I debunk myself.
Yeah.
It's just kind of the way it goes.
Yeah. It's so funny. So that actually gets into my very next question. And so I have this theory, and I actually did a video about this on Sunday. My theory is that one of the reasons that the Star Wars leaks, I guess we could call them the Paxis leaks or whatever at this point.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons that I think the leaks have been hit with such revolt or sort of rejection by a lot of the fans is because it usually doesn't happen this way. Like, my experience with your stuff is that you source stuff out, like you'll, check it out, and you're very reluctant to release stuff without getting multiple sources to confirm it. And so, like, the information gets kind of piecemealed out, right? And
yeah,
I think that's the same thing with Fantatrax, right? So, like, what happened with Paxis was Paxis releases this thing, and it's just, like, so freaking detailed and so wild. And honestly, dude, when I read it, I was like, there's no way that's real. But then, you and Fantatrax, I think, felt, because that leak was out there, that you felt more comfortable sort of corroborating it a little bit. And I think that's kind of why it's so different this time. What do you think about that?
It's weird. For instance, in 2014, 2015, when I was doing Force Awakens, I ended up with the shooting schedule and about somewhere between like 700 and 900 pieces of concept art.
Wow.
So when I started to report on things, and they had this code in the shooting schedule, like where it wouldn't say young Luke Skywalker is on Bespin. It would say young original warrior.
Okay.
It was just like these like little codes. But then when I had the concept art and it said young original warrior, it was pretty easy to break the code. So when I read about that stuff back then, I was able to see the concept art as well as what they were shooting, and it was very clear kind of what the vibe was going to be.
Right.
Jedi Paxis, on the other hand, I think my take is that his mission statement here is, I want to get the connective tissue of the film. I don't think he's like going for the heart of it. I don't think he's going for character motivations necessarily. I think he's like, how do we get from A to Z?
Sure.
And so a lot of the interpersonal, like, connective tissue between the characters is not there, or it's not very overt. So when you read it, you kind of go like, why? Like, why did that? Why is Kylo going to this planet? Why is that? Like, this doesn't make sense to me. And I think, like, it's not his fault that people are having a hard time with it.
Yeah.
I kind of like, this is probably not a very sensitive analogy, but it's kind of like if people are starving and you just show up with like a buffet and they're like, go to town. And I'm not going to tell you what any of the food's called.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At the same time, people start getting sick and throwing up, and they're not ready for that.
Yeah.
So like, I usually try and like, so when I get stuff, I usually try to like put it out in like little pieces. At the same time though, he puts it out like in a, which I appreciate. I can handle it, so I love it. Like, I'm a fan of it.
Yeah.
I hope he keeps doing it. But when all of that stuff comes out, people are like, whoa, this is too much. So like, I usually like kind of put a little bit out, then hope that sources fill stuff in. And like, that's kind of been my method, and it works for me so that people don't get too crazy on me.
Yeah.
And Reddit was surprisingly cool for like the last 6 months, which was like the first time in 7 years of me doing this stuff where I was like, dude, Reddit, it's cool now. And then Paxis dropped the revision, and that was, you know, I don't know if he's been a leaker before on films. I have no idea. I don't know him.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's not my first rodeo, so I kind of know that like, you don't want to do A through Z if you could help it, because it's not going to end up that way.
Right.
It's going to change. And everything that he's put out, I have seen like empirical evidence that he's not off and that he's not making it up. There's stuff in there I never saw, never knew about.
Right.
But there's no reason to like doubt it. Like, people go crazy about like Bulio. Like, well, nobody mentions Bulio. And then, well, because once Bulio had a name, that's when you start going, hey, what's up with this Bulio guy? Mm-hmm. And then they're like, oh yeah, he's just this dude who gets decapitated. You know what I mean? It's like, well, whatever. It's not like it's not like a big thing or even important. Like I still don't even actually know if Wedge is in this movie.
Right.
I had a ton of rumbling, like a ton. Like, we're talking like 8 people are like, yeah, we know we know that he's visiting. He's visited.
Yeah,
he's visited.
I'm
like,
that.
How many times? Yeah, I'm like, how many times is this guy gonna visit? He's in the movie, right? It has to be in the movie. And then I know people who have seen the movie, and I'm like, did you notice Wedge? And they're like, oh, because they're just not, they work in the industry. They're not like us necessarily. So yeah, so Jedi Paxis, I feel bad for him, but I think this is going to be like kind of a tough, in terms of like internet, like love, tough little period. And I think the movie will come out and everybody will be like, oh, Jedi Paxis is our hero.
Yeah,
he's the best.
Yeah. Well, okay. So yeah, let's talk about that, because here's the thing about that. I'm having trouble. I'm having trouble personally deciphering between how many people out there are upset at the prospect of leaks like this, or if they just straight up do not like what they are reading. And I know I agree with you about context. I agree that, like, you know, you kind of need to see it on screen. You know what I mean? Like, you need to see it on screen before you'll get that. And you know, for me personally, what I do, I'm a big leak guy. Like, it's a crazy thing. When I went and saw Avengers Endgame, I pretty much knew almost beat for beat like how that movie would play out. But I was so like in it at the time that it's not like I was sitting there with a checklist being like, okay, this scene check, this scene check. Like, I was just experiencing the movie. And then afterwards, it was more like, okay, now I can sort of, you know, juxtapose what we were talking about with what actually happened, and now it's kind of interesting. And it, you know, I was fine with it. But there are some people out there that I don't know, man. I feel like there's a large group of people that are super not down with what's in the leaks. And so let me ask you this. Is there any chance, in your opinion, that the movie is wildly different than what Paxis has presented?
I mean, It's always possible. It's always like the fear. Every time I sit down to watch one of these for the first time, it's like, okay, here we go. And then it's like, oh, I get more comfortable as it goes on. But you never know. I mean, you never know if there's they filmed so much on this film, and we're writing so much and doing improvisation and just trying to shape the movie up. And until we got to the reshoots, it wasn't clear. But once we got to the reshoot phase, so much leaked out of that.
Okay.
And it's kind of funny because when they do these like skeleton crews on these movies, they break up the crews to like some extent. And then what ends up happening is a weird game of telephone on my end where people who weren't on one crew ask me what the other one was doing. And then they kind of tell me what they did.
Sure.
And then I kind of play this weird, like, yeah, here's what happened. And then it more gets out than would have. When it came to The Force Awakens, people hated the movie that I put out there too. I mean, what I said it was. And then The Force Awakens came out and everybody loved it and had a good time and was super happy.
Yeah.
I mean, overall, on like a big scale. So when you put out what people aren't happy about on this one, I think it will probably be better taken at a like when our parents go see it, they'll probably be like, cool, like fine, whatever, that was rad.
Yeah.
But I also think that you have people who are like shipping people and wanting like so and so to be like the main character when Rey's the main character or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of hard to say how that will like all turn out.
Yeah.
But by the time we get to the third one of these films, you usually have a huge fan turnover by the third one. And then you are left with, here's the new fan base. Here's the current, Saved by the Bell, the next class or whatever it's going to be called.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. And so, we're going to, don't worry. We're going to get into all the shipping talk, chat. Don't worry. Al, I need to check in with you. How's the chat doing? Is everybody surviving? How is everybody okay?
Yeah. Chat is popping. Everybody's pumped, super pumped that we got Jason on, man. We've already got 3 super chats in the queue, brother.
Nice.
It is flying.
Nice. I am happy to hear that. Now we're going to get into some spoiler talk and make everybody in the chat mad. So please stick around. Drop the like before you get all angry and get out of here. Jason, 2 questions right before we get into the spoilers and the things that you were kind of telling me about earlier and last night. I got 2 questions that they're not in the leaks at all, but these were things that I heard in like an OG plot leak that literally came out like around the time of Endgame's release. And these 2 things are the Star Forge and then the Force Child, which was this concept of Rey and Kylo Ren actually having conceived a child when they touched hands. And so, I know it's super wild. Do you know anything about a Star Forge? Like basically like that was in KOTOR. It was like this thing that was, it's supposedly in the unknown regions and it's able to make, it would basically be how they made the Sith fleet, essentially. Have you heard anything about those 2 things?
I haven't heard anything about that.
Interesting.
Nothing at all. Yeah, I would not bet on it, personally.
All right. Well, we're moving right along. Okay, so now, did you want to go over some of the leaks that you've been hearing about recently, and then we can just kind of talk about what we think about them?
Yeah. I brought like 10. We can do as many as you want, but 10 little tiny baby little amendments to the Pax's stuff. After I read it, I talked to a couple of sources and I had a couple of things thrown back to me.
Cool.
And should I get into it?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's just go down the list.
Okay, yeah. So the first one is that it like hollow chess is back. I think Abrams is a fan of that. And there's a scene before Finn and Poe meet Bulio, and they play hollow chess with Chewie.
Nice.
And Chewie's about to win. Chewie's actually about to win. He's not being beaten now. He's wised up. He's a vegetarian. He's eating healthy.
Nice.
And he's about to win, but then they have to abandon because the mission kicks off.
Oh man, Chewie gets the shaft again, dude. No medal, and now he can't get the win here. Jeez.
That's what they say. Yeah.
That's rough.
And then and then if you remember, I had the scoop a long time ago. Actually, one of the scoops I had was Kylo Ren's mask.
Sure. Yep.
That was going to be all red and put back together and Darth Maul-esque, which is kind of true, but kind of not. Basically, that scene where Kylo gets the mask and the monkey dude, like that stuff is still in the movie. It wasn't in the Pax's like breakdown, though.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, but that is still in the film, I'm told.
Okay.
Yeah. So if anybody cares about that, I always was kind of afraid that would be cut.
Sure.
Because I don't have any evidence that I could like throw down on this one, but I'm pretty sure Rey fixing her saber was the original opening that was going to be juxtaposed to him getting the mask back.
Oh,
And
interesting.
then everything got like reconfigured.
Right. You think this time she's just gonna have the fixed saber? Like they're not really gonna explain it?
Yeah, I think we're gonna cut down to we're gonna see those moments with her and Leia, and she's just gonna have the saber fixed.
And it's just got like a band around it in the middle or something. Like it looks like a leather band, right?
Yeah, just like a little like black band on the toys. It's just a little black strip.
Cool. Yeah.
For what that's worth. Yeah.
Saves him a little money.
Yeah. Leia's last words to Rey, as Rey departs on her mission, are, "Tell me when you get back." Not crazy amount of dialogue there, but that's what she says.
Yeah, and
and then as we know, it doesn't
happen.
End up that way.
Yeah.
No. But my last one links into that. Another cool one, a little tiny one, is there's this like alley on the snow planet. I think it's called Kijimi. I can't remember how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
And but that Babu Frick, they end up going like through this little bar, and like a back alley bar, and then they go through, and then that's when they get to the droid repair shop with Babu Frick.
Okay.
Yeah. And then this one was kind of weird. In the Kijimi Force Bond, Kylo realizes Rey is on his Star Destroyer, and after his saber strikes the Darth Vader helmet, it transfers it to her on Kijimi.
So it transfers the helmet to her?
Yeah.
That's weird.
And it sounds, and like I was hoping to get some more clarification on that little bit before I came on, but I didn't get it yet.
Yeah.
So I'll put it in an article or something in the future.
Yeah.
But basically, like, it sounds like the helmet actually gets struck by the saber, and is destroyed or is broken in some way, and then transported to where Rey is.
Yeah, I mean, that's really weird, and that could possibly be how, because we're hearing that the saber thing at the end, where Kylo was going to fight them without the saber, the Knights of Ren, that is, and now he's going to get Leia's saber. Could it be a similar thing where it's like transferred via their Force bond or something like that? I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's definitely like there's going to be a lot of teleportation stuff. Like that's how he finds her on the sand planet later on. Is that little necklace that she has? He
rips it off. Yeah, it's super cool, man.
Yeah.
It's super cool. And we'll get more into like sort of the speculation and nerding out in a second. But yeah, go on.
Yeah. Right now, Han is not like getting like a Force ghost appearance. He's in Kylo's vision when Kylo is injured.
Okay. Yep.
Like after Kylo's beat down. And by the way, I've seen Kylo from the end duel of the film, and I put out a picture today that was kind of like a depiction of it, but he's way more battered. Like the Knights of Ren, they do a prison style beatdown on him. It looks like.
Dude, I'm into that.
Yeah.
That sounds cool.
Yeah. So Han is a vision, and I think it may be even debatable at the end because Harrison Ford's in the movie,
right?
And so it may be debatable in the end. Was that actually Han's ghost? And for what it's worth, Rey's parents were ghosts too, and they've been pulled. From what I understand, the ghost had been pulled out, and we'll get to that and what's replaced that in a little bit.
Sure.
So the kids the kiss at the end of the film is between two random female resistance fighters.
Okay. Yep.
It happens, and it's not a big deal. It's just there, and like that's the kiss of the movie is what sources are saying.
Yep.
Like there's no huge romantic kiss. So if you're a Reylo person, if there is a big kiss like that, I don't know, but apparently there is going to be a same-sex kiss. So cool.
Yep.
And then this person I talked to, this one was kind of frustrating and kind of confusing.
Okay.
Finn Rose and Finn Rey keep getting like shown in different ways. And so originally Finn Rey was a thing where basically Finn wants to tell Rey that he has like a crush on her or that he has feelings for her. and he can never get to it. But what they're saying that has changed since the reshoots is that Finn Rose is likely a thing because she does a bunch of cute things for him in the movie. And like one of them that was given to me is that she like packs his bag before he leaves on the adventure.
Sure.
Which on one hand, I'm like a little bit like, I was like a little nervous on reporting that one because there's people are going to be like, oh, cool. She was a hero and now she's packing his bag. But I think, I think she has like bigger stuff in the base and in the fight and stuff like that. So I think it's just that they show that maybe there was some like domesticity between the two of them.
Yeah.
In between the films.
Yep.
Yeah.
You heard it here, guys. You heard it here. Jason Ward hates Rose Tico and said that she's only good for packing. I'm kidding, of course. Go on. I'm sorry.
No, yeah, sorry. You know what? The source was telling me a bunch about it, but I was tearing up her action figure, and I just didn't hear him. So, Rey takes apart Rey takes the sabers apart on Tatooine, right? And it's the Skywalker Anakin saber, and it's Leia's saber.
Right.
But when she does it with the Force.
Nice. I'm into that.
That was the one thing. Yeah, when we heard about it, it was like she just like sitting there working on. No, she does it like with the Force, and then she makes her saber from that. Mm-hmm. And then that's around the time, if you've heard that scoop I had, where she takes the name Skywalker when a kid asks her, "Hey, what's your name? I haven't seen anybody around here," and she says Rey Skywalker. Yep. So then I was talking about how there used to be two ghosts at the end of that sequence, and it was Rey's parents, and it is back, or it is Luke and Leia now at the end on Tatooine.
Yep.
So it sounds like, because originally Luke and Leia, after death, Luke and Leia showed up in the fight with Palpatine. Now I'm getting the vibe, and this isn't completely confirmed by sources, but everything is pointing towards it, that Rey's down for the count and Kylo or Ben has been killed, and the Jedi voices wake her up.
Yeah. And
Palpatine is super Palpatine in that part, because he's taken the essence of he's drained the Force out of Rey and Kylo to like regenerate himself.
Yep.
And so the Jedi are like, oh, we can do that too. And then they show up and they revitalize Rey, and that's when they march in on Palpatine.
Yeah.
So I think that Ben's death is going to play into that ability to regenerate or to energize her in that moment. I can't see how that could not be the case. Can you just imagine that happens? Ben's dead, and then like Ki-Adi-Mundi shows up and he's like, "You're better now."
I know, right?
Like, it wouldn't make any sense.
Well, it's so funny that you say that. So like Al and I, after I got this list from you or whatever, like I was talking to Al about it, and one of the things that we said straight up, and Al, I'll go to you in just a second, man, so you can make everybody mad. But we were like, wait a minute, so Kylo just dies? And then like Luke and Leia show up on Tatooine and Kylo's not there, and they're just like, "Oh, this is the real Skywalker. That Ben Solo dude, he was a dickbag anyways." It kind of feels and I think this is something that I've seen a lot of other people talk about online too. It feels just a little bit empty in that regard. And there were rumors that perhaps Rey was going to resurrect Kylo, but if he falls into an abyss, there's nothing to resurrect, right? And there's also perhaps a potential for here's something that I thought they could do, which I think would be kind of cool, is if somehow he's like a Force ghost, but like alive in the same sense that they were able to Force bond and actually touch each other. That like, what if Kylo's like alive kind of, but like only like to Rey, like Roman Polanski Ghost, but like they can touch each other. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, What do you think about that? Is that too wild?
I don't think so, because in like the original version of Return of the Jedi, Darth Vader, they're on Mustafar. They're on the throne. That's pretty much the same throne from this movie. And Obi-Wan and Obi-Wan and Yoda's ghosts show up, freak out Palpatine, and that's when Darth Vader's like, "I'm going to grab you and throw you into the fire with me."
Really?
And so, yeah, that was the version that George Lucas originally wrote.
Wow.
And then Obi-Wan in that script in the Netherworld saves Anakin before he goes on to the next life, if you will.
Yeah, I
And then
do
that's how
remember
he's
that. Yeah. I mean, yeah. So okay, so let's get nerdy. Let's get into a few of these things. So
yeah.
let's just go right at it, man. The Reylos are upset, right? And so the Reylos are upset because from everything we've seen in the leaks, or heard in the leaks, and everything that's been reported, there is no focus or emphasis on a romantic side of their connection. The connection seems to continue, obviously, and it's used, in my opinion, interestingly as a plot device. But there doesn't. It seems like they really keep Kylo very villainous, pretty much like right up until his turn. And I know he'll probably be reluctant, and you know, Adam Driver's really amazing at facial expressions and his acting. You get this just sense of like the sort of the light behind the darkness, right? But it seems like what's being reported is the emphasis on Reylo is not there. The connection is there, but there will be no payoff to the connection, and there will be, from everything we've read, not even a hint at the romantic side of their feelings. I mean, is that accurate to what you're hearing?
Not entirely, because I mean, there's a lot of like he is interested in her. Like that is the vibe I keep getting, is that he has a connection to her, and he has a connection to no one else. He has no one else. He only has Rey in a weird way.
Sure.
And him kind of being like this prodigy of the Force and all that kind of stuff. Rey is the only other person who's ever met kind of like him, you know, besides, you know, Luke and Leia, but they're not like him. Like, he's extraordinary. And the message I tried to convey to my Reylo friends was like, how is it not peak Reylo from what we know? And for a Star Wars movie, the Star Wars movies are not overtly sexual. The kissing doesn't get that crazy. We never saw when Luke and Leia were conceived. That didn't happen on screen. Right. But the guy goes and he realizes that Rey's going to fight Palpatine on her own. And he goes and he gets his butt kicked, but fights his old gang, takes them down, throws his weapon away because it's evil, the weapon of evil he's been using. Right. Goes in with no weapon to save like this person that he has this bond with, this connection to. Mm-hmm. And he has no real like reason to think he's going to win. He only cares about saving her and making sure that she's okay. Like, as I agree with the actual like Reylo motif. Mm-hmm. Like, I would have been jazzed if there was actual romance, sure, instead of like kind of like in this incel version of Star Wars we have lately. Yeah. Like I like when Han Solo's like, "Hey Kira, want to go in here?" Like, I'm like, "Yeah, that's Han Solo, man." And you're Han Solo's kid. What are you doing, dude? Yeah, you got no game. He's Han's kid, but he's got no game. No, man, he's got some emo records. Yeah. But it's no, but I mean, so like I'm with them, you know, on that part. But you know, it was Irvin Kershner who said that a kiss in a Star Wars movie is equivalent of a sex scene. Right. And so I'm gonna just like downplay a little bit and say like whenever they have those connected moments, that's the equivalent of a kiss. Sure. You know. Sure. And so I think when you take that and like how that relationship goes, and in a weird way, I mean, it is kind of cool that it is saying like you can, boys and girls, men and women, they can have an intimate bond and it doesn't have to be just sexual. Sure. You know, yeah. And so in a weird way, it's kind of cool that the movie is going, or that the series is saying that in this instance. But I also come at this from the perspective that if Ben falls into that hole, he's not dead, because who's fallen into a hole in Star Wars and stayed dead?
Emperor?
Nobody yet.
No, yeah, wait. No, oh no, yeah, you're right.
Nope.
Yeah.
Right.
Nobody. I mean, even Darth Maul got some new legs, like Lieutenant Dan style. So.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Titanium.
For sure. Yep. For sure. Let's get a sense of the chat. Al, what's going on in the chat, man? I actually feel like, honestly, that was a perfect sentiment from Jason. I felt like the Reylo should all be happy. So I assume they're furious. Let me know what's going on.
Yeah, man,
Sorry.
it's definitely a mixed bag now, man. You start talking Raylo, and all of a sudden it gets a little bit contentious in the chat, but everybody's keeping it cool. So
All right.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, man. People on both sides of it agreeing that they don't think Raylo's going to be played up that much. People fighting, saying no, Raylo is the point. So yeah, man, it's back and forth, bro, back and forth.
Yep.
Yeah, the Raylos are rad. I mean, like overall, like all in all, they're like cool, and they had a lot of like they weren't treated fairly
Sure.
up front. Like have you guys ever heard the criticism of
Oh,
them
of course.
that
Jason.
it's their abuser
Yeah, yeah.
that they like want?
So you.
And I'm like,
Yes.
in Star Wars, there's no abuse like that in Star Wars though.
Yeah.
It's war, and it's like if it was real, they'd have a point, but
Yeah.
it's not.
So
it's genre.
Well, you know what's funny is like, so you might not know this, or maybe you do know this, but I at one time was, I guess you could say, a predominant male person in that community. I actually, to this day, if you type in "The Den of Nerds" on YouTube, the Den of Nerds Raylo pops up because I had so much authority in the algorithm on that, and I sort of walked away from it, and a lot of the Raylo community sort of hates me for that. But yeah, I think they were completely treated unfairly. The abuse thing, I think, is. The abuse thing is one of those pedantic comic book things. Like, it reminds me of those people in comic book shops that they would just, there'd be like a new costume for Magneto, and there'd be that one guy that just had to poo-poo it, and he'd have the most ridiculous reason to poo-poo it. Like the people that were saying that the abuse thing, to me, that's what those people were. They were just kind of being pedantic haters, right? And it was super uncalled for, and I know that a lot of the Raylos were upset about that. Now, I have my own beef with that community for other reasons and different things like that, but by and large, I do agree that they're actually a good community. I do think that some of them have come at you a little too harshly online. But let's talk a little bit about Luke Skywalker. So. We just made, hopefully, we just made all some of the Raylo people happy. Now, what are we going to do with these Luke Skywalker people, Jason? The people that want Luke to come back in the flesh, jacked like Rambo, with 6 different lightsabers. Can we confirm this? Is this a thing? Is it confirmed?
Yeah, he gets General Grievous's arms as like
God.
a backpack that fits on, and he uses all of the lightsabers of the best Jedi from the last movies.
Dude.
Whatever your favorite Jedi is, he uses those.
Yes.
And he just like chop suey's up Palpatine.
Nice.
The end.
That I think will make some people very happy. But in all seriousness, do you know anything like about, because there was all this talk about, let's just be real. Like, I personally don't hate the Luke portrayal in The Last Jedi as much as a lot of other people do, but I think it's fair to say that was a huge piece of contention for the fans. So there's a lot of people that really didn't like that. Is there anything done in 9 to give us a more old school version of Luke, or you could say fix Luke, you could say redeem Luke, or whatever phrase you want to say?
Yeah.
Is there anything like that going on in your mind?
Well, it's so silly. I think it's silly because if you just finished the movie, Episode 8 gave it to us. Like, he's the old guy who doesn't want to live. He wants to go to this mountain and commit suicide, and he doesn't want to train anybody, and he doesn't want to get involved, and he thinks the Jedi are bad. At the end of that movie, he becomes the old Luke again. He goes to the end fight. He saves the day. So, like, I don't know why there's almost this assumption we would get to 9, and that he's going to be this old crotchety ghost who wants to be left alone.
Right. So he
doesn't want to help. Yeah, it's not 8 episodes. Rian Johnson, he brought Luke from a low point back to the guy who we expected, and he did this really rad magic at the end.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow, Luke has powers we've never seen before. So when we get to this one, and like there's the moment where Rey goes to throw the saber because she's giving up, and he catches it and tells her, like, that's no way to treat a lightsaber. Like, that's not JJ, like, slapping Rian Johnson down. It's not. It's literally JJ picking up on what Ryan, like, left on its plate.
Sure.
And making it rhyme in a clear way. And we always thought we might just get this Force Ghost Luke in these movies.
Yeah.
Like, that would, like, I remember going down to the Egyptian in 2012, or maybe late 2012, and Mark Hamill was there for a screening of Return of the Jedi, and he's like, I don't want a lightsaber fight. He's like, I don't Like he was like a little bit overweight then too.
Yeah.
He was just like, I don't even want to lose this weight for this movie.
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't want these all. I just want to have like magic. I don't even need a lightsaber. Like that's what Mark Hamill wanted then. So it's kind of funny when you see the kind of like the discourse about Hamill and what people think he wanted, because he was from the very start was just like, yeah, I'm not going to do very much.
Yeah.
And so we're going to have him being Alec Guinness in this movie, and that's what it should be because it's Rey's movie. It's not Luke's movie.
Sure. Yeah, and that's what I keep telling people. You know what I mean? Like, so as much as like, so you know, I think, you know, you and I might come down slightly differently on this, you know, and that's totally cool. But like, I think for me, I tend to focus on the stories, and maybe you could clarify this, but the stories that JJ had, the original ending with Luke, with all these rocks floating around him as he meditated, and Ryan convinced them to change that ending to give us the Luke that's sort of hidden away from the Force, right? And so, yeah, Luke didn't really want, or Mark rather, didn't really want to lightsaber fight, but he wanted to have like godlike power and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is there any like hint of that in Episode 9? Like, do we get any of like that godlike power, or is it really just? I mean, is he really just the Alec Guinness? What do you think?
Well, when it comes to that moment when Rey's fighting Palpatine and Ben's dead, and the Jedi like revitalize her, and she crosses the sabers when he tries to shock her and shoots it back, I got a feeling like I can't imagine that moment happens and Anakin's not there and Luke Skywalker's not there and Yoda and Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Like it would be insane to me. And sources keep saying disembodied voices.
Right.
And I believe them. I believe that's what they're seeing. But I cannot imagine anybody going, you know what's better than seeing Luke Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker and Yoda going up with Rey against Palpatine?
Hearing them.
Disembodied
Right.
voices. A podcast version of this.
I agree.
In the YouTube era, let's do a podcast version of Star Wars.
Dude, I totally agree with you. Yeah,
So-
yeah, I totally agree. And I hope that that was actually my next question is Anakin. I'm of the mind that like, he has to be in the film in some way. You know, JJ made the comments where he's like, look, I know some people are bugged by bringing Palpatine back, but I don't know many books where the last couple chapters don't have the villain that's been the villain of the whole book. I would agree with that, but I'd also say I don't know of many last chapters in a book that don't have the main hero. And, you know, Anakin arguably maybe not the main hero, but he is the main character. Like all of Star Wars, even The Force Awakens, Vader hangs heavy over that film. You know what I mean? Like we hear Han Solo say Vader for the first time. You know, we see the helmet, you know, all these different things. I mean, I would be, you know, kind of disappointed. Like to be real, I'd be pretty disappointed if Anakin wasn't in the film in any way. But have you heard anything about that, or is people like hush hush, or what's going on with Anakin?
The only thing I've heard is that those disembodied voices.
Yeah.
There's a lot of voices, and a lot of the sources who have been able to even acknowledge it don't even know who a lot of them were. Like there was one moment where I think Paxis reported that Ahsoka Tano was in there.
Yep.
And like I have no idea,
Right.
so I have no clue. So it's like not like a critique or whatever, but it's like I know for a fact that some of the people who I know would have no idea if that was Ahsoka Tano or not.
Yeah, very true. Very true. All right, guys, we're going to get into super chats now. Jason, you can hang for a little bit more while we go over some of these?
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool.
It'd be great.
Al, hit me with some of these super chats. And guys, if you're in the chat and you haven't done a super chat yet, feel free to drop one. And we'll try to take a few questions that are not super chats as well. So drop questions. And Al, keep a lookout for anything really interesting in the chat that's not super chat, okay?
No doubt.
All right, hit me with the first one, brother.
First one we got was from Brett Lickfield. Said happy to support and loves the leaks.
Awesome.
Appreciate
awesome.
that, Brett.
Thanks, Brett.
Then we got KB with the $10 super chat. Says a much better movie that makes more sense for a Star Wars movie would be if you combine The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. They feel like part one and part two anyways. Take out all the Skywalker or Starkiller base.
You know, Al, what have you and I talked about many times before?
That exact same thing, man.
Yeah,
That exact same thing.
So, Jason, I don't know how you are on this, but Al and I talk about this a lot where we're like, dude, if The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi were one movie and you cut out some of Canto Bight and you cut out Starkiller Base, dude, that is one of the most rock and roll movies ever. And I honestly feel like it's a good beat one in a new Star Wars movie, and it really would have passed the baton, I feel, much better, and gotten sort of to the newer characters without like lingering attachments. I don't know if that makes sense, but like, have you ever thought about that? Is that ever something that you thought about?
I think of it like in a bit of a different way, in that I don't believe that Episode 9 is the end.
No way.
And you know what I mean. And I don't think like or even the end for like Rey. Like if Kylo falls down that hole, like I said, I think there's going to be a movie where they go down there into that abyss. What's down there? What happens? Why is it an abyss? And then if he's dead and his spirit comes, like I think there's all kinds of. I think we will get a Rey Jedi movie, Jedi Academy, Jedi, whatever you want to call it, film down the road. I say give it like 3 or 4 years. People start missing Rey and Finn and Poe, and I think all that stuff will be back. So I don't think that we have like missed opportunities at all. We might have like one super movie if we did combine them, but I don't think that's what this is about. I think this is about milking it.
Oh man! All right. So here's the thing. Here's the freaking thing about that. I'm gonna be a little pissed if they did all this stuff talking about the end of the Skywalker saga. If they're all about the end of the Skywalker saga, and then we continue on with this story, I'm gonna feel a little cheated. I mean, like, it's that certain point of view type of thing, but like, I don't know, man. I feel like they're heavily implying that like this is an end, and I think even Daisy, and not to say that she couldn't, be boilerplating, but I think she's even said something to the effect of people asked if she would come back, and she literally said like it just feels so final, like 9 just feels so final that I don't think Rey's story needs to continue. Like I'm pretty sure she said something to that effect. You know what I mean? But you don't think that. You really think they're gonna keep on going?
Dude, Harrison Ford came back after Return of the Jedi, and then he came back again. He's coming back again.
Yeah, that's true.
Daisy Ridley is going to be like, no. And if the stuff I reported on about her saying her new name is Skywalker, how is that the end of the Skywalker like saga? If there's a new Skywalker, there's like literally a new one at the end of the movie.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So it's the rise. How would the rise of Skywalker be the end of it?
Damn.
And yeah, so unless you really want to take like a biological bloodline kind of perspective, then I guess you can, and that's one way of doing that.
Sure.
But philosophically, and in terms of like her being in their family and a part of their history, she's going to be pretty intertwined into the whole thing by the end of it.
Damn, that's a good point.
So
thanks. I hate it. Okay, Al, hit me with another one, brother. Where are we at?
All right, so let's take a look. All right, so the next one we got was from Brent Maxey. Says he's still at a business dinner, excited to see the replay, no question. Just wanted to drop by really quick for support. Jason, you're awesome. You too, Josh.
Thanks very much. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man. I agree.
And Brett Lakefield with another one. He said, make that 4 super chats. And then we got 2nd Street Marvel dropping some love for the den, bringing us this great stream.
Thanks, Trinity. Appreciate that, brother.
Then we got, Trevor Fishbane. If Rey takes the name Skywalker, I'm going to find that really disappointing unless there's a very good payoff. What are y'all's thoughts?
Okay, Jason, what do you think? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I gave it that the payoff are those other movies they're going to make in a couple of years.
Yeah. My thing is, and it's so funny. You actually, I think you said this in one of your videos, and I found it pretty poignant because it wasn't something that I thought about. Maybe because I'm just so dark side myself. But you made this comparison to Palpatine and Hitler, where it's like nobody would want to be known as like I wouldn't if I was Hitler's son. I wouldn't want to literally go down the street and be called Josh Hitler, you know what I mean? Or like nobody would want that.
I said Juan Hitler to be extra ridiculous, but
nice. But yeah, so like that is interesting. And if I by the way love the Palpatine granddaughter thing. I love it, dude. I've actually been a fan of that theory since way back when people had that theory. People, by the way, and I don't think that they knew then, but people literally had that theory when she thrusted. Do you remember this? She thrusted her blade in a certain way, and people were like, "She's a Palpatine." Shout out to Andrew Fantasia. But yeah, it's like to me, the whole idea is she comes from the most evil of evil. She comes from like a lich king type of evil, like the darkest of the dark side, the goblin king, whatever you want to call it. Like just in the mythological sense, it's like Satan. She's like born of Satan.
Right.
And she rejects that, essentially finding grace and adopting the name of heaven, the name of God, the name of light, whatever you want to call it. So to me, I think it's kind of rad. Like I think it's kind of cool. I don't hate it at all. Like of course we got to see how it's executed and all of that, but yeah, Trev, I appreciate the question, but like I'm not as upset about it as you are, and maybe some other people are. Al, hit me. What we got?
Next one comes from executive producer Ryan H.
Oh,
Yes, sir. Says Jason, and I guess Josh too. What are your thoughts on Freddie Prinze Jr.'s recent rant?
oh, I gotta know what you think, man. Jason, what do you think of his rant?
Yeah, no, it's totally on. I mean, everything is it's a yin and a yang. It's a push and a pull, and that was like I guess the Lucas thesis, if you will.
Yeah.
Is that it? Yeah, Palpatine does this thing, so then the Palpatine and Plagueis do this thing, and then the Force is like, okay, here's Anakin, and then he's like, I'm going to manipulate that, and so yeah, it just kind of goes back and forth, and it's not necessarily like it doesn't really matter that Rey levels up like it's a video game.
Yeah.
I think that was one of his points, and then I kind of just saw it in passing, and I haven't got to like rewatch it or anything, but yeah, when he was saying it, I was like, yeah, that's exactly. It's dead on to me.
Yeah. I didn't. I'll be completely honest with you guys. I didn't even watch the whole rant. Not like out of like disgust or anything like that. I think I was literally just pooping or something. I was watching it, and I thought it was interesting, but like it didn't. Like everything that he was saying is so spot on. Like you can't really argue with what he's saying. Like maybe he wasn't being super tactful. Maybe there's some pent up aggression there because this dude probably. I mean, like, dude, Jason and I
Sure.
have to deal with all y'all crazy Star Wars fans at a level that already causes us a lot of stress. Can you imagine what a guy like Freddie Prinze Jr. has to deal with? But as far as I'm concerned, anyone that studies at the feet of Dave Filoni, who studied at the feet of George Lucas, I mean, that's just undeniable Star Wars royalty to me. So, like, that man, even if he literally came out and said, fuck the den of nerds, he gets a pass. So, that's my take. Al, hit me.
Yes, sir. We got another one from Daniela Torres. Says, thank you, Jason and Josh, for the great stream and for what you do. I hope we can all find peace and love soon. True Raylos believe in peace. Anything you guys most excited for in 9? Mucho love from Boston.
Yo, thank you so much, Daniela. Thank you very much for that. Jason, anything you're particularly looking for in the film? Is there anything that you've heard about that you just really want to see?
You know what? It's so general. I'm excited for Rey, Finn, Poe kind of being together and on the adventure. If there was one like critique I would have of the earlier films, the first two, was that Rey doesn't meet Poe until like the last minutes of The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of excited to see like what does this whole gang together look like when Chewbacca and R2 and 3PO are there. But all of that said, I think what just came to mind was there's that moment when 3PO sacrifices himself, his memories to translate the Sith dagger.
Sure.
And if that plays out how I'm hearing, like I'm excited to see how that unfolds.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are damn good answers. For me, it's just Palpatine in general. Exegol too. Like Exegol just, and I've said this in videos before, but like just the idea of Exegol intrigues me so much. I want to see what this planet looks like. I got Magic the Gathering vibes when I heard about it. It just really scratches a lot of my nerdy itches. So I'm really excited to see Exegol. And then Palps. I kind of liked the dyad thing. I'm kind of disappointed if that goes away. I get it, but like I was kind of into that because that's kind of Dragon Ball Z. And yeah, so I don't know. Probably Palps and Exegol. Yo, Al, let me throw that at you. Is there anything you're very excited to see?
I think the big one for me is how or where Anakin shows up. Like that's gonna be my thing because if we don't get any Anakin, I'm going to be hotter than fish grease.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's for me. That it's really that, and then just seeing how it's resolved at the end, man. Just seeing how it all comes together, and if this is really going to be the end, how it's gonna go, how it's gonna play out, man.
Yeah, and bonus answer for me, I want to see that gold or yellow lightsaber. Um, that's my shit. I mean, I actually have a yellow lightsaber. Like that's always been my color. So like, man, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that. Al, do we got a couple more? And then did you grab anything cool from the chat?
Yes, sir. We got one more from Cameron Craig. Says, "Love you guys. Wanted to show some support. Can't wait to watch the replay at work."
Awesome.
And then we had another, just a random $1.99 super chat from Jason McCord. Appreciate that, Jason.
Thank you.
And then one quick question that I grabbed says, "Is it all possible that Darth Plagueis is in Palpatine's body and Palpatine never killed him, but Plagueis is just using his body now?"
Jason,
what are the odds on that one?
Jason, any Plagueis, man? Any Plagueis? Or let me rephrase. Is there any Plagueis in the movie? And was there ever any plans of Plagueis in this trilogy? Have you heard any of that?
I haven't heard anything about Plagueis. The only thing I ever heard that even seemed to link into anything like that was that there was going to be, for The Last Jedi, there was going to be this promotion that was going to reveal a new dark side hero.
Ooh.
And I think that might have linked into the stuff about what's his face, Matt Smith.
Yeah.
And Palpatine. And I think that it got pushed back, and then I still can't solve that mystery. I don't know why we thought Matt Smith was in this movie. I don't know why sources at Pinewood were saying Matt Smith is filming on this movie.
Yeah.
There's none of that makes any sense to me still to this very day.
Yeah.
But there's been nothing about Plagueis, and I don't think general audiences would know how to even take that. Do they remember episode 3?
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, we would love it, right? But like, you gotta, and I always try to like bring this point up to people where it's like, guys, if you are watching my videos, you are like in the 1% of uber nerdy Star Wars fans. Like, normal people, if you know what I mean, like the normies, we call them, don't watch videos about Star Wars leaks. You know what I'm saying? So like, we're in a very small niche within the fandom, which is fine because I think it's awesome. But that's not how movies are made. Movies aren't really made to like please people like us. Although, I think they should, but they should worry more about pleasing mass audiences. Let me shift the question though and ask you about this, man. What about Snoke? What about anything with Snoke? Have you heard anything about how? Because I think the latest is that he's sort of more or less going to be considered a pawn of Palpatine. I know JJ said something in an Entertainment Weekly a long time ago about how the origins of the First Order would be revealed in the film. Do you know anything about that and what's up with Snoke?
The only thing I know is I heard at one point he was in the opening crawl.
Whoa.
Yeah. I never got the opening crawl, but I knew, but when I asked about that, it was essentially that Kylo wants to know more about Snoke and what Snoke was hiding from him, and that was what was going to bring him out to look for the Wayfinder and then Exegol and all that.
Okay.
But the opening of the movie has been massively like reconfigured,
right?
And it opens up with like the Sith fleet now and everything like that. So I'm not sure if that will survive at all. But that was the only thing I had ever heard about Snoke and the Rise of Skywalker.
Gotcha. Al, let's run through those last couple supers. I don't think there's any questions with them besides the Slave Ray thing, which sounds hot, but I doubt it. What about?
It happens. It happens.
Oh, confirm, guys. Sorry.
Yeah. When they go to the water park. Yeah.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. Love it. And then is there one more interesting question you want to grab, and then we'll call it?
Yeah, let's take a look. So, there was one question here. Says, what do you think the chances are of Rey sacrificing herself to save Kylo from Palps, and Kylo rises to vanquish the Emperor and quote unquote finish what his grandfather started?
Yeah, so that's a big thing. A lot of people, and I know you've already experienced a lot of this as well, Jason, but a lot of people are like, they really want Kylo to get the win. They really want Kylo to finish the prophecy in some way. I've always said that if Kylo, it's all has to do with perspective. If Anakin shows up and is somehow involved with defeating Palpatine finally, then that to me can shore up the prophecy thing. As far as Kylo is concerned, I've always kind of believed that, you know, he will do something to help Rey, but he won't get like the kill. It's like in an RPG, if we're in a dungeon and it's the final boss, and this character has to do something and gets all the ads or does something and then self-destructs to allow the other character to get the win. I've always kind of said that that's kind of the way it is. But do you think there's any chance that it's reversed and that Kylo gets this kill on Palps, and why or why not?
I mean, there's always a chance that they film things in alternate ways and are not using the actual stuff until like sort of the last moment for secrecy. I could see that kind of thing happening. So if something like that did happen, I'd go, you guys, you're crafty. Like, it wouldn't surprise me. At the same time, that's not what sources are saying now.
Yeah.
The sources aren't, and that's not what people who are working on the film are hearing about or talking about.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately, like Rey's our main character, and, you know, it would be really strange if all of a sudden that wasn't the case. Like, she didn't do it and Kylo did. But I also believe that Padme's the protagonist of the Phantom Menace, and then by the end of it just isn't, for almost no reason other than the fact that she had to get pregnant, and they're just like, oh, well, now she's not in the movie anymore.
Well, apparently the real reason is that her and George didn't get along, and George tweaked out. Yeah, that's what the rumors are anyway.
Well, Monkey Island, you know about that?
No, I don't. What's that about?
Lucasfilm was going to make a Monkey Island movie, and then they ended up selling off the work to that, and that became Pirates of the Caribbean. And they put Keira Knightley in that movie because that was who Lucasfilm was talking about using.
Oh, wow.
And the rumor was that they had told Natalie Portman to shape up, or we'll just get Keira Knightley in some white face paint and we'll like remove you from this film. And then she did.
Wow.
Then she shaped up.
Holy cow.
Yeah,
that's pretty wild.
I don't know how much of that's true. The Monkey Island stuff is definitely true. Like, I've seen like evidence of that stuff.
Wow.
But all of that connects into the Monkey Island to Pirates of the Caribbean. Strange.
Whew, okay. Well, that's pretty wild. Now, I do see a big old super chat, $99.99 from Madison Blake. $100 worth of really wanting Anakin to show up. Let there be some info. Jason, we've already went over this, but just because it is a big old super chat,
it's a big one.
Yeah, let's just do one more little conversation about Anakin. You know, maybe they missed it or whatever, but yeah, give your thoughts on Anakin, because you actually surprised me about how much you wanted Anakin to be in the film as well.
Oh, big time! I'm a huge prequel fan. Like, I don't really favor a Star Wars movie over another for the most part. I think that they're all kind of like building blocks onto the same thing. And those first 6 films amounts to Anakin's story, and then through his son or through his kids. But it's Anakin's story, and when we get to the sequel trilogy, it's his grandson, and then we have Rey, and these things kind of like they could feel like they don't connect, but because we don't know all 3 films. And with what we know and how this all comes in together, I do find it crazy that Palpatine is sort of responsible for Anakin's birth.
Yeah.
And then Anakin is kind of why Palpatine's able to be the dude he is.
Yeah.
And then but we're going to bring back Palpatine, but we're not going to bring back Anakin.
Yeah.
Like I said, I wish I had that scoop.
Yeah.
Like, I want that story so bad. I want to tell people exactly what Anakin does in the movie, or that it was Hayden. Like, that's what I want. Yeah. But I don't have it. That hasn't happened yet. And I have a feeling if they did film it, they might have filmed it. Bespin Bulletin said that they were filming at Bad Robots, like, sound stages recently.
Yeah, so it could be forced ghosty, done in post, you know what I mean? Like that kind of a thing, right?
Right now. Yeah, it could have just been filmed like this week. And what people don't realize is that when I get stuff, I don't always get stuff the day it happens. Sometimes I get it like the day it happens, as it's happening. And sometimes it's like, oh, it seems like it just happened, but it actually happened 4 months ago, and sources are quiet because they want to stay safe. And so if they did put Anakin that far back into the film, we may not know until it comes out.
Yeah, and hey, look, and that would be kind of cool too. It'd be kind of cool to be surprised too. But yeah, we're gonna call it there. Jason, thank you so much for being here, man. Before we go, where can people find you if they don't know? You run a little Star Wars website out there. If you want to plug that,
Yes.
and then yeah, let them know where they can find you on Twitter and whatnot.
Yeah, makingstarwars.net is the website where I report all of the spoilers. Makingstarwars.net is my little baby YouTube channel with 5,000 subscribers, but I'm making spoiler videos now because it's fun. And Making Star Wars on Twitter and Facebook.
Yeah, and honestly, guys, if you haven't been following MakingStarWars.net, I forget where I first heard of you. I think it was like Collider, maybe Jedi Council or something like that. But like very quickly, you came onto the scene and became like a force there. And I would suggest, I love your videos. I would suggest everybody go give a subscribe over to Jason's Star Wars channel and check that stuff out. And yeah, we're gonna call it there. I know we got a couple late call. Super chats, guys. Jason, the Den, you guys are all great. I wanted to see the Resistance gritty battle, not the First Order shooting at nothing. I want to see both sides. Yeah. I got you, Senor Montique, but we have to call it there. I apologize. But yeah, I want to see both sides. I mean, look, I love Rogue One. I want to see it be brutal and stuff like that too. Al, how was the chat on your end, man? I mean, we're going to call it here, but you got anything you want to give to the people before we get out of here?
Just want to show a little bit more love. Appreciate you guys keeping it nice and civil in the chat. Can't wait to do this again sometime. Thanks again for all the super chats. And remember to smash that like, please.
Smash that like, guys. And then, yeah, let's try to have Jason on maybe after the film comes out and we can kind of talk about some of the things that happen. That would be really cool.
Anytime.
Awesome, dude. Awesome. All right, guys, we're going to call it there. As I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and a nerdy day. And I'll see you in the next video.